Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan.
Yo, welcome back to the channel, people. Today we've got a first video in a new series that I'm doing where we're looking at some of the symbolism and imagery in these music videos. First episode today, we're starting off with Taylor Swift and her Fortnight video. So let's not waste any time, let's just get straight into this. Taylor Swift's highly anticipated video, Fortnight, is said to be about heartbreak. But what we all seem to be overlooking are the parts of this video where we see her literally chained to a bed, drugged with pills, and electroshocked by white coats. So this video today is going to explain the esoteric meaning behind this music video. Now, at the 2024 Grammys, Taylor Swift won Album of the Year award, becoming the first artist ever to win this prestigious trophy 4 times. And after weirdly snubbing Celine Dion, you know, because nobody's allowed to top the current queen, which is Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift used her acceptance speech to announce her upcoming album titled The Tortured Poets Department. Now, before we get into this video and we get into the music video, I just want to touch on this Tortured Poets Department. This album title alone is highly symbolic. Tortured Poets is indeed an apt way of describing an artist in the music industry today. Although Taylor is seen as an untouchable queen with a godlike aura around her, she remains an industry slave like the rest of Hollywood. And before we move on to decode this video, I just want to show you these hits. Taylor Swift and Masonic Puppet are a double match. Also, if you see here in the Masonic Puppet and the Taylor Swift, they both show the 66. And this was actually the 66 Grammy that she won this at. If we just quickly take a look at Taylor Swift's outfit at the Grammys that night, you can see that the black necklace she's wearing, a choker necklace, which alone, a choker is what slaves used to wear, okay? So that is quite literally a sign of your own bondage. So please stop wearing chokers. They don't have good connotations. But what I want to talk about with this one quickly is she wore a choker with a watch on in the middle. Can you see it? This is this is so symbolic, and I know that some of you already know what I'm going to say here, right? Who controls time? Who's the god of time? Saturn. She's got a watch around her neck on a choker, wearing a choker which represents being a slave to time, a slave to Saturn. This is just child's play, guys. This is so simple to see. She's controlled by the Saturnalian cult that run Hollywood. Who the fuck wears a watch around their neck? Come on, you need to start asking yourself these questions now. Who does that? No one does that. That's Father Time around her neck, okay? And Taylor promoted this album in a picture featuring this blatant one-eye symbolism. It just gets boring after a while, to be completely honest with you. And the real message here is that no matter how powerful she may seem on the face of things, she has no autonomy whatsoever. She is still an industry slave. And the picture from the Super Bowl that they brought out with her and Ice Spice tells you all you really need to know. You know, that inverted cross around the neck of Ice Spice is the key takeaway from this picture. We all know Ice Spice is a MK industry plant, so this image just reinforces the message that Taylor is under the control of the powers that be and these behind-the-scenes Satanists. In a nutshell, okay, stardom has a price. The title, Tortured Poets Department, tells you exactly what that price is. The fact is, the industry artists are literally tortured by a system that uses monarch mind control. And when we take a deep dive into this video here in a second, you will see that this entire video is quite blatantly about MKUltra and monarch mind control. Taylor Swift's albums typically revolve around her exes. Meanwhile, her fans take great pleasure in finding Easter eggs and hidden meanings in her music videos while completely missing the super obvious occulted meaning. A simple semi-educated look at this video shows us exactly what it's about, and it's really not what people think. So the first scene we see in this music video is Swift in what looks to me like some kind of psych ward type room where she is chained to a floating bed, okay? As you can see, her bed is floating in the air, which hints at her dissociative state as a MK slave or as a monarch slave. As you can see, other items in the room are also askew or upside down, which further reinforces the slave's confused perception of reality due to various psychological techniques that we're going to get into shortly. Now, as I've told you guys many times, the majority of Disney films are used as thematic bases for mind control. And with this scene here, with the disassociative dreamlike room that they've created with everything off, this comes directly from Alice in Wonderland. We see the same motif in Alice in Wonderland, especially in the doorknob scene and the tea party scene. All of these warped realities where things are in the wrong place, inverted, or down or upscaled only serve to further reinforce the idea of disassociation, along with, of course, lots and lots of drugs to help facilitate this process. And this is a very, very, very common thing that you will see in a lot of live performances, music videos. The same symbolism can be seen here in Ollie Alexander's performance at the 2024 Eurovision Song Contest. This song is ironically called Dizzy, and as you can see in these images here, we've got a load of men in barely any clothes in what looks like a dirty toilet. Very, very disgusting, very unsanitary. There's nothing nice about this. I'm going to be honest. The whole performance was weird. As you can see, there's people standing on the walls. Ollie's actually completely inverted in this photo. And then later on in the video, it gets even more strange because then we have scenes like this, which just honestly give me the fucking creeps. Ollie looks like he's being possessed, doing his backbreaker thing on the top of the wall. And then you've got all these burly, very flamboyant men doing all this madness up the side of the, like, what is actually going on here? How can this be considered artistry? Okay, this is what I'm saying. But this is the same symbolism that you will see in various different music videos. And as we carry on through this series, I'm going to show you this over and over again. But for the sake of this video, we can see this same symbolism in this Taylor Swift Fortnight video, okay? And like I said, this song that Ollie Alexander's called is ironically called Dizzy. Dizzy as in feeling dazed or confused or unsteady. All feelings which a subject going through Monarch programming would undoubtedly feel. So again, this song Dizzy is just another head nod to Monarch. And I'm just going to pop this image up on the screen here a second because Alice in Wonderland is, as the title says, one of fashion's most enduring muses. And just from this image alone, I feel like I don't need to show you anything else because does that child look happy? Why does that model look so distressed? I hope you guys really do understand this. Mind control runs the fashion industry. Mind control runs the world. Mind control runs Hollywood. Mind control runs the entertainment industry. So of course it doesn't escape the fashion industry. And this is why we see so many celebrities always dressed up as people from these films that are based as thematic programs for mind control. It just so happens that in this one they're using Alice in Wonderland. Now, as most of us know, the CIA was originally using LSD to experiment with the effects of MK. Speaking of which, a creepy upside down, might I add, nurse enters the room in the next scene to give Taylor her dose of pills. As we can see on the pill box, it says forget him. Now this forget him pill is a thinly veiled reference to an amnesiac drug. Causing amnesia through drugs and other methods is a vital part of Monarch programming. And in the scene, Taylor is in a dissociative state and is given medication to further the programming. They give us a shot here with Taylor chained to the bed with an amnesia pill in her mouth, showing us that she is no more than a puppet forced to celebrate her own slavery. Now, after Swift takes this pill, in the next scene in the video, she begins to wipe her face with what I'm assuming is a makeup wipe in front of a mirror. And she reveals the same face tattoos as Post Malone. Post Malone features in both the song and the music video, and from a purely exoteric, uninitiated perspective, he plays the role of her love interest, and people are assimilating these tattoos with that role. However, this scene implies a much darker truth than what most viewers think, and I have two perspectives on this. The first being that she is revealing the same tats as Post Malone on her face because he is her handler and is responsible for the maintenance of her programming. As many of you already know, when these celebrities cover themselves in tattoos as some sort of fashion statement, it's really a byproduct of their torture treatment. The tattoos are symbolic of them trying to cover their body and their shame. That's why you see all these rappers now head to toe in tattoos. It's all to do with mind control. All that covering up the body to hide the shame, it's all to do with the things that they've been through and the trauma they've been through. They're trying to cover the trauma. So my second perspective on this scene is that Post Malone is not in fact her handler, but is actually her trauma twin. And there's a scene a little later on in the music video that I will get into very shortly, which will help me explain this idea further. So we're going to circle back to this very soon. Now in the following scene, we see both Swift and Malone typing frantically on a typewriter whilst they sit facing each other in this like office type space. In this scene, each of their words are manifesting in this colourful abstract haze. Posts are blue and Taylor Swift's are coming out as this like sallow orange colour. Now this scene here actually takes place in Taylor's mind, and those locked storage compartments we see in the background are actually her memories. Post Malone, who is either the MK handler or the trauma twin, is inside of Taylor's head and he's writing new memories. Now we know this is what's happening because in the following scene we see both Swift and Post lying next to each other on the floor in the middle of Taylor Swift's head, which has been made out of these files that represent her memory. So in this scene, the two singers are literally inside of Taylor's mind, which is made up of all these files, aka memories. So these two scenes here are all about controlling Taylor's mind. And as many of you will already know, controlling the memory of a subject is a foundational principle of monarch programming and any type of mind control. As I've previously stated in many different videos, trauma produces amnesiac barriers or amnesiac walls between event memories and personal history. And by producing altered states of consciousness, the memories of a monarch slave can be nested. And what is meant here by the term nested is that the memories are essentially locked behind doors, and those doors can only be opened by the programmer or the handler. But it's the trauma that creates these doors through the amnesiac barriers of trying to forget the event. It's like having a maze in your mind, a maze with as many doors as you have amnesiac barriers, which are also different personalities or alters. This is why somebody with DID won't remember or be consciously aware of their other alters unless they've done recall work or they've had bleed through. They do not know each other because they are locked behind these amnesiac doors in your mind. So Taylor could have multiple alters, which I'm positive that she does, and have absolutely no idea. And it's only the handler that can essentially open these doors or activate these alters. And this can be done in a myriad of ways. And it can be as simple as a word or a phrase or a sound. Okay, stuff starts to ramp up in the next scene quite quickly, as we can see that her programming is taken to another level. Taylor is tied up and her brain is connected to an electroshock machine and she is being tortured. In this scene we see Ethan Hawke dressed as one of the white coats. And the way he is postured in this scene and presented clearly shows he plays a very important role in this process. Right, now if we just break down the name Ethan Hawke very quickly, we find that Ethan is in fact of Hebrew origin and essentially means strong, permanent, perennial and ever flowing. Now Hawke is obviously a bird. Now you may or not be aware of this, but birds actually evolved from reptiles. So essentially, once you do a little bit of digging on Ethan Hawke's name, it essentially means strong reptile, permanent reptile, perennial reptile, or ever-flowing reptile. Couple this with the fact that he was born on the 6th of November, which can be written 611 or 116. Again, they love this number. We see we're brought back to that same coding over and over again. 116 is 119, which is 9/11. And we've been over this extensively on this channel. Oh, and one more thing. Ethan Hawke's career was essentially propelled after his performance in Training Day as Officer Hoyt. And this film came out in 2001, which was the same year as 9/11. It's all connected. So this name, Ethan Hawke, directly tied to reptilians. And this is why we see album covers like this. This is why there's so many characters in the music industry that are related to birds. You know, Birdman from Young Money. You got Tony Hawk. You know, you've got this image here, which is a front cover of the Kings of Leon album. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, if you... No. I'm being serious. If you look at the front cover of this Kings of Leon album, what possibly possessed you to do this? That makes no sense. When you realize what I'm telling you, the birds are the reptiles. They're just telling you. Straight up to your face. Anywho, let's press on. So in the next scene, we see Post Malone examining Taylor's brainwaves. When we look at the paper, we see that the lyrics are in the brainwaves, okay? So the brainwaves spell out the lyrics of her song, implying that they've been programmed into her. Now, at this point in the video, you would assume that because Post Malone is playing the role of her love interest, and he is also complicit in her torture here, that he is in fact her primary MK handler. And that may be the case here. I think it's totally possible. However, there is also another angle that you could approach this from. In light of the fact that we see Ethan Hawke here, it could be the case that he is actually the primary handler of both Swift and Malone, and they're actually trauma twins, as I mentioned before, or have been trauma bonded. Now, non-biological twinning or trauma bonding is yet another bizarre feature observed within Monarch programming. For instance, two young non-related children would be ceremoniously initiated into a magical soul bonding ritual, so they will be inseparably paired for eternity. They essentially share two halves of the programmed information, making them interdependent upon one another. Essentially, the programmer will get the two parties to develop a codependent relationship before fracturing each of them in front of the other one. Okay? It's basically another way to cause deep psychological trauma to two individuals. So, for instance, in the case of this video, Malone would have been forced to partake in this act against his trauma twin, even though they have an ineffably deep soul bond and connection with each other through their joint trauma. He is psychologically or physically unable to disobey his handlers or programmers. Now, Post Malone running over to the machine and taking the cooldown and turning it off is also what put this thought of them being trauma twins into my head. In that instance, his programming could have broken for a second as he saw, or once he realised what he was doing to his trauma twin. You know, Ethan Hawke isn't in this video for no reason, guys. That's all I'm saying. And I really don't think... In fact, I literally know, because I've had first-hand conversations with people about this stuff that have been through it. I know it's not as simple as person X handles person Y. There's a lot more to it than that. Also, the scene here with the brainwaves spelling out the song lyrics is quite literally them telling you that all of these songs that you play their part in programming you. When you listen to them, they are changing your psychological makeup. After the electroshock, we see what's happening inside Taylor's mind, a whirlwind of burning files representing memories being erased and scrambled as a direct result of her electroshock treatment. Now, this is a quote from Fritz Springmeier's book, The Illuminati Formula to Create a Mind-Controlled Slave, and it sums up this entire video quite well. Each person's original mind is like an open computer. The original computer-like mind, in order to continue working, when confronted with overwhelming trauma, splits a part of the mind off and walls it up with amnesia barriers. The electroshock also scrambles the brain's filing of a memory, so that it's filed back in bits and pieces. Because of the use of electroshock, if memories do start surfacing, they surface in pieces. So when people start getting bleed-throughs or recalls of alters and they're just getting fragments of these memories come through in very short snippets, this is a direct effect of the electroshock treatment. It scatters your memories. Now, in the following scene, we see Taylor back in the same room that we saw her in at first, the one that looks like a psych ward. However, this time she's smashing a mirror in the room. And if there was anything that was going to solidify our suspicion that this video was about Monarch, it would be this. You see, all MK-themed narratives must contain a mirror or a glass-breaking scene. It's very, very symbolic. Glass-shattering scenes are typically presented as some type of rebellion or fight back by the affected slave. But what it actually represents is the fracturing of the slave's persona into multiple pieces, which represents the different alters. And you will see this symbolism everywhere. In the final scene of this video, we see Post Malone inside of a phone box with Taylor sitting on top. Honestly, at face value, this scene just makes absolutely no sense, and I have no idea what the average person thinks that this particular scene is about. Then again, I don't think the average person thinks that much at all, so I've probably just answered my own question there. But what I think this scene is really alluding to is the fact that telephone tones are actually used to trigger MK slaves from a distance, or monarch slaves. Okay, sound plays a pivotal role in programming, as it's used to embed and compress detailed commands or messages within a specified alter. This is achieved through the use of high-tech headsets in conjunction with computer-driven generators, which emit inaudible sound waves or harmonics that affect the RNA covering of neuron pathways to the subconscious and unconscious mind. Virtual reality optical devices are sometimes used simultaneously with the harmonic generators, producing pulsating coloured lights, subliminals, and split-screen visuals. High voltage electric shock is then used for memory dissolution, as I mentioned earlier. Now, Taylor Swift is currently at the pinnacle of fame. She has essentially ascended to music and business royalty. However, this video shows us the truth behind the curtain. She is not an empowered, powerful, autonomous woman. She is a powerless industry slave with zero control over her mind, actions, or words. Under the guise of what appears to be a love song, this video displays the utter destruction of an MK slave's core persona to create an alter. And while this may sound like science fiction, I promise you from the bottom of my heart, this is as real as it gets. Hollywood is built upon a bedrock of mind control. And we will continually see the same themes as we process throughout this series that I'm doing now. The next video will be out very soon.